The topic was the relationship between marriage and the risk for alcohol use disorder. There is a lot of cross-sectional studies. If you go into populations and you examined either rates of quantity of drinking or alcohol problems, you find consistently that people who are single drink more than people who are married. So the issue was, can we figure out why that relationship is occurring? What we showed was that being married was substantially protective, reduced your risk for alcohol use disorders by 60% if you're a man and about 70% if you're a woman. We were able to identify a population-based cohort of people in Sweden, about 3 million people altogether, so really big samples. And we took everyone who had reached the age of 20 and had not had any prior alcohol problems and not been married, and we followed them over time and found that of individuals who got married, the subsequent reduction in risk was, as I said, about 60% for men and 70% for women. The major problem in interpreting such studies is whether this reflects a causal relationship or the effects might be going the other way around. It could be, is there something about the kind of people who develop alcoholism that impacts on their marriage? So we addressed that in two ways. One, we tried to control for a range of factors like your family history of alcohol, whether you had prior deviant behaviors, your social class, and when we controlled for that, there was no difference in the relationship. In a more innovative manner, we used what's called a co-relative control study. You might think about being able to identify a series of identical twins, same genes, same family background. One was married and the other was not, and among that group, the twin who was married also had the same reduction in risk. So it's much more likely that this is actually a causal effect. But this is the kind of study, you're never going to be able to do a double-blind controlled study. It's taking 5,000 people and you 2,500 have to get married and you don't get married. So within those confines, we were able to have quite a bit of confidence that the effect of marriage is actually protective. We were able to ask one particularly critical question, which was, what about the effect of being married to someone who themselves has alcohol problems? And what we showed that in those circumstances, those marriages were not protective, but indeed predisposed you. So the quality of the marriage seemed to play an important role. This is consistent with a variety of research of the so-called health monitoring effect of marriage, that a lot of what spouses do for one another is, are you eating right? Are you exercising enough? Are you sleeping right? And anybody who's married, you may be smiling now too, because wives have a habit of doing things like that, and husbands to their wives. That's probably a substantial impact of this. We did two other things that may be of some interest. One was, additional, was to see, we were able to determine who in Sweden was at high familial risk for alcohol. And what we saw is that the people who were at the highest risk got the most benefit from being married. Finding how strong the effect was and how even among identical twins the effect didn't decrease was really surprising to me. It suggested that just about the whole association is actually a causal effect of being married, reducing your risk. And that's got big impact on planning, the way we think about alcohol problems. We're in an era where we tend to be focusing on the neurobiology of these conditions, and those are obviously important. Genes are important. Alcohol is interacting with your brain. This study puts on a firm research footing showing that the social features, the interpersonal relationships, the quality of relationships also play a really important role in this condition. It will play a role in understanding how important for you as a clinician to pay attention to the social support and quality of marriage of the people you're caring for. And certainly if you are a policy planner and trying to provide resources, you shouldn't be putting all your resources into neurochemical evaluations. Those are important. The social context are really critical. As a clinician, you want to try to make alliances with the family members. They can help you in early warning, they can help support. So it shows in a firm way how much we have to pay attention to the social and interpersonal context of alcohol problems. Now, Alcoholics Anonymous have known this for a long time, the so-called buddy system they have, and actually in some ways is an attempt to recreate, in a more artificial way, these natural relationships. So having people who care about you, who are looking after you, reducing your drinking is a really important thing that clinicians have to remember. The next follow-up is to look at the effect of divorce. And as you might expect, although we're still in the middle of looking at that, if you're married and you get divorced, your rate of alcohol goes up substantially. And then we have a large enough sample to find out what happens if you get married again and your risk goes back down. So it really is the state of marriage that is protective against running into alcohol problems for both men and women.